Hey friends, Olivia from Ollie. Between new routines and the ultimate group project known as parenting, you need science-backed solutions that work with your life. That's where Ollie comes in. Start your mornings off right with multis made to support nutrition and immune health. Choose from our lineup of gut-supporting probiotics, and we've got occasional sleep support to help the whole fam chase their big dreams. Head back to class with the #1 gummy supplement brand. Stock up on ollie.com today. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Listening to this podcast instead of doom scrolling? Smart move. Another smart move? Getting help from one of State Farm's 19,000 local agents when you choose to bundle home and auto. Bundling, just another way to save with the Personal Price Plan. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, professional speaker, published author, and co-host of this illustrious podcast with the Lost World to My Empire Strikes Back, Mr. Jake Noonan. Say hi, Jake.
Ooh. Hi, everybody. Great as always to be here. Dr. Matt, I don't think I've watched The Lost World ever.
It is a very strange sequel. Like, if Jurassic Park is all about wonder and wonder turns into fear, The Lost World is about anger and like how anger leads to arrogance, leads to repercussions. It's a very different movie.
Interesting.
Super young Vince Vaughn. And it's like one of those things, like, it's like, because he's such a distinctive looking guy, it's like distracting. It's like, but you're Vince Vaughn.
You look different, but younger.
How strange. It was before Swingers even, which is like time capsule. But Jake, you know why, I was trying to set up our intro with the theme of today's episode.
I do.
You know what today is, Jake?
What's today's theme?
Our very first return guest, our very first sequel. Let's go!
Really? That's exciting.
We love sequels.
And if I could pick one person to be the person who breaks the ice of our sequeldom, it would be Dr. Emily King, because I did your podcast twice. So now I think spiritually we're
even. Well, I am honored. Thank you for having me back.
We could not pick anybody better. And we're here to talk about something very exciting, very special. You are entering a very special club, even more special than the first return guest on the podcast club. So Emily, why are you here?
I'm here to talk about my new book, The Neurodivergent Learner, which is coming out August 25th.
Put thunderous applause.
Woo-hoo! And it is out of my hands. It's in the warehouse. It's been printed. It's done.
It's official.
It's official. So at this point, we just talk about it. And I'm really excited about this era of the journey.
We are so excited for you. And both as a friend of the pod and a colleague, but also my actual friend. Like, I could not be more happy for you. And I've gotten to read the book. I've gotten to blurb the book. I mean, normally I'm like one of the above the line blurb people, but then the kind of people you've gotten to blurb your book, I'm like, I'll just hang out in the back. It's like with like a music festival poster, and it's like Sublime, Dave Matthews Band. And then at the very bottom, it's like Jimmy Joe and his alcohol band.
That's a really good band.
A very good band, right?
However, I will say on the marketing materials that my marketing team at Penguin Random House put together completely on their own, I had no influence at all. They didn't even ask me. Dr. Matt's quote, like part of your blurb, quote, is at the top on the front
of all my postcards that go out to colleagues and bookstores and schools. So you are featured.
I feel very featured. And the next time you and I are in person, I'm going to have you sign one of those cards and
Oh,
go
yes.
onto my wall of awesome.
I have like 500 of them, so I'd be happy to sign any number you need. I have so many of them. It's funny, but I'm like, I'll start sending them out soon.
And it's funny because writing a book is very hard and it's very scary. But the part where it's like it's done, it's in the warehouse, like I found that part so exciting. I could barely keep it out of my skin. But you, I think, are a little bit more anxious than me. So I'm wondering, like, is this hard for you? Is this exciting? Where are we at? Emotion.
Well, it is. I will say, I mean, anyone who knows me, has followed our conversations, knows that I'm a recovering perfectionist, of the probably slightly gifted variety, overachiever, something. I don't know what I am, but those are the tendencies I have. Lots of anxiety in school, so I overachieved my way through that. Went to school a very long time because I learned how to do school and I got really good at it. And then I got a doctorate in the psychology of school. And so I have to say that this process of writing a book was actually pretty healing for my anxiety. There were moments that were really scary, but it was so incremental. I had, moments of anxiety waiting for feedback from my publisher, moments of anxiety of getting it done on time, or truly when I sent out the first drafts for beta readers to read, which is like, it's still a Word document at that phase. You're kind of throwing it out there of like, is there anything I'm missing? Is there some big hole in the research I haven't covered? There's something that I really need to mention. That was scary because you get imposter syndrome. Like, what if I've just written something everyone already knows about? And it's like not helpful at all. So you get that feeling. However, I will say, because I traditionally publish, anyone who has been through that process, it is like annoyingly thorough, which I knew it would be. That's why I wanted to do it that way, because of my own anxiety. But by the time we got to the third and fourth pass of reading it, I was like, y'all, it's fine. Like, it's ready. It had been copy edited. It had been read by like multiple people on the team. I had 10 beta readers. Like, I was like, y'all, I cannot read this thing again. First of all, it takes me a week to read it in the middle of my life. And so I got to this point where I felt proud of it, and I had accepted, like, okay, if there's a typo in there, I'm good. I'm human. I did find 2 typos when I read the audiobook, but I was able to let it go. Listen to that. Anyway, it's been a whole process that has been a little healing for me, because the effort you put into it is so much more important, and you feel so proud of it than like any little human mistakes that are in there.
It is very healing. And it's like, and it's funny because I'm like reflecting on this, like, it's healing to be able to share this part of our professional journeys. Like, you and I have so much in common, and now this is another layer that we can share. Because there was a story in my book that I told that I had never told anybody. And bearing that part of your soul, it's like, yeah, it's terrifying, but I would say it's terrifying like a roller coaster, not terrifying like a shark.
Yeah.
It's this fear that it's like something amazing is coming from this. There will be a catharsis, versus like, nope, there's a shark in the water. I might die.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know how long it takes to write a book. I wrote the proposal for this book 2 years ago. So you're going through the process of writing, but think about how you change as a person in 2 years, whether you're writing a book or not. Your life is still happening. Your kids are still growing up. You're going through all different work experiences. So that also was part of the journey. And speaking of sharing stories, each chapter in this book has an anecdote. A lot of them are not real because they're inspired by clients, but they are not about actual real life clients to protect their privacy. And then one of the chapters is my story. And it's the chapter on, now I can't even remember. I think it's the chapter on testing. And I talk about test anxiety. That was cathartic to talk about that story. But then one of the main reasons I wanted to write this book, and the unique lenses that I have that my agent told me, my editor was like, this is unique, is because I'm a mother on this path too. And so I share strategies and stories about my kids that are real, things that have happened, things I've figured out, personal emotions I have had about the journey of parenting neurodivergent kids. The book opens with my own emotional journey of when I first realized that my son's development was on a different trajectory. And I was already a psychologist at that point. So it was that feeling of, I know what I'm looking at, but my emotions are not on board. And so I had these parallel paths of like, I can cognitively dive in and project manage the mess out of the situation, which I did, and my husband at this point has like an honorary doctorate in all these things because he's right along with me learning all the systems and all of that. It didn't protect me from all that knowledge didn't protect me from the emotional journey of pivoting to accepting the kid that I have, which we all have to do as parents for a child that just has different interests than you thought they would have. It's a simple pivot, or that doesn't go to your alma mater. Simple pivot, right? But these are massive pivots that your child doesn't fit into the traditional systems of schooling and general education, or of camps, or in public community environments where you want to travel, all those things. So at every phase of raising a kid, you are problem solving how your kid fits in. So that was a huge inspiration and very cathartic to write this book, even though it's a nonfiction book. There's lots of research. It's filled with strategies. Each chapter starts with a story, because that's what I always come back to with this work is the stories of people and their progress.
Well, and I think that's what makes you such a powerful speaker and storyteller and thought leader, is that like, this isn't just work that you do and then you retreat to your gated community in the suburbs. Like,
I don't even live in the suburbs.
She lives on the moon. There's this special artist colony that we have up there. We don't try not to tell you guys about it.
Oh.
This is why the second episode is so special.
Come to you live from the moon. The Holdernesses are up there too.
I wish. I want to go with Christina Koch next time and colonize the moon.
Colonize the moon. And it's funny because since we've had you on the pod last, your kiddo graduated high school.
Yes.
And it's funny because I was looking at the pictures you posted and I got a little teary because I was like, I know what that journey's been for you, once again, as not only a colleague, but also as a friend. And like,
yeah,
the joy on all your faces, like, it wasn't even a mean comment, but it was one of the firmest pieces of feedback that we got from your first episode. Was someone was like, you made such a mistake in asking Emily when her kid was going to go to college. And I was like, well, it wasn't a mistake. It was actually intentional to like open up this conversation. But listening to the episode, like, no, it does sound a little bit like, so your kid's doing normal things, right? So it's just that sticks in my brain of like, people don't comment on the podcast episodes a lot, but that was one that was like
interesting. That resonated with people. It's a vulnerable parenting experience, right? To me, the question about, is your kid going to college, is the same feeling as a parent of, oh, your kid's 16, are they driving now? Or, where's your kid going to kindergarten? And you're in your mind, you're like, well, they're going to a specialized kindergarten that you've never even heard of because your kid's just going to the neighborhood school, and then you have to like go through a whole story. So the parent perspective of that is, do I know this person well enough to tell the whole story? Or do I just say something else? Or it's so much mental energy to decide what to do in that moment. And I go into, there's a chapter in the book on allies, and I go into what I have categorized in my mind, because I'm a very category person. It helps me put boundaries on things. So there's like people you're never going to see again, right? And so you're like, yeah, you just like brush it off or whatever. Like you can even lie to them. You're never going to see them again. And then there's people who you're going to see again, and you need them to understand your kid, but you don't totally trust them yet. So you might share the story and see where it goes. And then there's what I call VIPs, which these are the people who are in your circle. They think about your kid when you're not with them. You know, for instance, my son's former piano teacher, he doesn't even take piano lessons anymore. She reached out to me recently to ask how he's doing, because my son also has epilepsy, so we've been going through some medical stuff with him. And she wrote in a text, and like the first thing in the text was, he's one of my favorite people. I just want to check in. And I'm like, ugh, like that's what that kind of person feels like in your life. We've had teachers that are like that. We've had church leaders who are like that. You'll know these people when you find them and hold on to them, because those are the people who you're so excited to tell that your kid graduated. He got there. And it's a family affair. Like we worked so hard together on homework, on planning what classes were doable versus not worth it, to figuring out, the graduation path he's on that would lead him to the next thing that he felt capable of. And they're really hard decisions, because not only is it hard to make decisions for a neurotypical 18-year-old who's like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. It's basically like a child, and this is true for twice exceptional kids too. They're smart enough and capable enough to graduate from high school, but they're not ready to be on their own. They may not have the executive functioning skills. So 18 is this arbitrary number, and we can feel really proud of the accomplishment and the achievement, because culturally, like, it was really important for him to get a high school diploma if he was capable of that. And we're so proud of it. But what's a little bit refreshing now on the other side, it's refreshing and scary. We're out of the rat race system. Like, we're out of, you have to go every day for 7 hours and take this many classes to meet these requirements for the state graduation diploma. That was hard. But what made it hard was the pacing. I mean, yes, we had all the accommodations and teachers were awesome, but you still have to fulfill the requirements. Once you get to high school, accommodations are harder to finagle, because if you're going to be on a graduation track, you still have to check the boxes of all the graduation requirements, right? So it is not lost on me, to get back to the book, that I'm birthing this book and my kid he will be starting part-time community college classes, and we'll just see how it all goes. But it's not lost on me that these two things are really serendipitously entering the world at the same time.
Absolutely. I mean, listeners, like, if you enjoyed that story and I was captivated, like, you will love this book. Like, that, like, marriage of human and professional and realistic. Because, like, I mean, working with kids with different needs is hard.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a grieving process that comes with that. It's a marathon, right? I mean, it's a marathon where, like, people don't really even understand that you're running a marathon. And it's so hard. And, like, to be able to put that out there in a way that's like, and here's how we struggled through it, and here's how we overcame it. Because, like, the books that are out there, they're like, and everything's fine because autism's a superpower. It's just like, we've moved past a point in society where I think we can tolerate the nuance of, like, yeah, twice exceptional kiddos. Easy things are hard for us. Hard things are easy for us. And God bless it. That's where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And you put that out there, and I think I know I resonated with it, and I'm sure other people will as well.
Yeah. You said realistic, and that is probably something that really describes me, because, my early work in the schools, I felt that way consulting with teachers in the schools, because you come in as a school psychologist and you're helping a kid with an IEP through consultation with the teacher. And there's a lot that I could say that, like, research says this, or this strategy worked for someone else, or this strategy works, like, when it's one-on-one, but not when they're 30 kids. So from the jump, I knew, working with teachers, I was like, I can give you an idea, but you got to tell me if this is realistic in your classroom. And the same thing is true when parenting these kids. The same thing is true when working on, schedules and goals. And then it ebbs and flows. It's a moving target. So there have been seasons of life with both my kids that they've been able to do things that they maybe weren't able to do a different quarter or semester of the school year. Or I work with so many families where kids make tons of progress in the summer because the pressure of school is off. So you start to notice these rhythms in your kid. And I talk a lot about capacity and energy. There's a whole chapter on energy because this gets into like, the kid who holds it together at school and falls apart after school. Well, that's just that their capacity for energy is tapped, and they can't keep going at the end of the day, not because like something's right at school and wrong at home. It could be that those environments are different, but most often I know in my work, probably yours too, is that kids are white knuckling it through the day to stay within the system that's moving faster or sometimes moving slower than their brain is. And they're just trying to align with this system that's not how they're wired. And that's exhausting, right? So in the book, I call this the dance. So figuring out the dance between holding your kid accountable, having expectations for them based on what they can do without pushing them so far outside of their window of tolerance that they're in burnout, they're overwhelmed, they have aggression, they go into panic attacks, like those types of things that obviously we can't learn and we can't connect and we can't play when we're in those states of our nervous system. So there's a bunch of science about that in the book as well. But I hope I bring it back to the reality of these are all ideas. Some of them are going to work. Some of them are not going to work. This is a book and not therapy, right? So like, I hope that it helps parents who are new to the journey, but also parents that feel stuck, that feel like, I think I'm doing everything, but is there something I haven't understood or uncovered? I hope that it helps parents feel also like, because I have figured this out over the years with my clients and with my kids, all the learning doesn't happen in the classroom. That's why the subtitle of this book is Success Beyond the Classroom. Neurodivergent kids especially learn outside the classroom because they can make decisions about pacing and interests and people that they're with. And many times the people that they connect to are not their same age peers. And so we have to have that flexibility as parents, but also I have a lot in the book about collaborating with teachers, how to do it, what to say. I have email scripts in there of like, this is actually what you write to get you started. Because so many parents I work with are worried about being like that parent, that is going to annoy their teacher. I mean, what that really comes down to for me is how you're approaching the teacher going to help them or going to cause more work or more of a problem for them? And most often, even if it's work, teachers want to know what the strategy is, what helps, what can I do to help this kid? They want to know, even if it's more effort, that's okay. But if it's, asking them to do something that they don't have the resources for or the bandwidth for, the support for, you can sometimes be that mom, but usually it's welcome from teachers that I'm from working on my side of the table with school psychs and teachers. They want to know more about a kid and then they want to be trusted.
Yeah.
They want to be trusted with like, I got this. But we still need to share information across settings.
I mean, I often tell parents like, you'll never be that parent fighting for like how to better understand and serve your kid. I think you become that parent when you're like, I don't like the brand of mac and cheese that they're serving in the cafeteria. It's like, listen, like sharing information helps me help your kid. But if you're nitpicking, if you are getting like weirdly specific and rigid, like that's when, as a professional, I shut you out. I had a parent once ask me to redo an entire psych report because she didn't like that I wrote it in Times New Roman. And I'm like, lady,
wow,
I have better shit to do in my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's those are examples of like, is a combo of making your job more difficult and not respecting your work.
Nailed it.
Yeah. So, we, of course, our kids are challenging. So, of course, something we may suggest may make a teacher's job harder. But if we couple that with respecting their work and coming to the table with, this is what it looks like in my home. What does this look like in the classroom? And then coming to a solution around the behavior or the skill weakness, teachers are on board with that.
All right. Now, Jake, You're the only person on this podcast who has not written a book. That's right. Shot fired.
Rude.
Pressure's on.
But yes, pressure's on. But also, you have an MFA in the humanities. So, like, I know you have a million writing questions, and I want you to ask them.
I do. And so, like, my first thing with all of it is I love that you split it up into 3 different parts. And it kind of connects to what you were talking about, where, like, it's accessible to so many different people depending on where you are in your general journey. So I love that the first one is preparing your learner. And it's like, okay, cool. If I've done that already and my learner is prepared, I can move on to the next one. If I've not done that, I'm going to start here.
Yeah.
And then I like that it goes from that to like supporting, and then from there to empowering. And it's more of like the holistic, full individual rather than just like, here's how you teach them, here's how you reach them, go.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what was the process, or kind of breaking that down, making it into those parts, organizing it in that kind of direction? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, after I got the book deal, I spent about 3 months researching and thinking about how I was going to organize this book. I mean, I had the chapters in a proposal. You have chapter summaries where you go through and you describe each chapter, but I did rearrange a few things prior to really starting writing. And some of it's how my brain works. You know, I wanted to start at the beginning. And to me, the beginning is, yes, it's the school journey, but it is also before the school journey. I wanted this book to come at parents after the diagnosis. I mean, you can still benefit from it if your child's in the process or doesn't have a diagnosis, but this book is not about, you know, who has what. And, you know, there's general categories of, I emphasize the, you know, neurodivergent is a lot of things. So I emphasize autism, ADHD, and twice exceptionality, because I wanted to hit both the research on gifted and learning disabilities. So I had to decide that. I had to decide, how am I defining neurodivergent for this book? And I say in the intro that I chose to focus on, you know, the most common types of neurodivergence that impact learning and development in young children, which are those, you know, they're the like OHI, autism, and learning disabilities are the most common special education classifications. So I had to define that. And then starting at the beginning of like thinking of it from the child's perspective, which I'm always doing as a therapist. I imagine a parent needing to be, that's where preparing your learner came from, a parent needing to be, before your kid even walks into the building, a parent needing to be prepared to how to prepare their kid, right? And probably because I had this experience myself. One of my kids did great in preschool, and preschool was not a problem at all, even though he had a diagnosis. And he hit that elementary school building and it was sensory overwhelmed to the max. And we got aggression, and it was a hot mess that we did not have in preschool. And I tell a similar anecdote about that that's like loosely based on his experience, but that had nothing to do with learning, except that he couldn't access learning until his nervous system felt safe. And I hear from so many teachers, I have a great relationship with them, it's still not working. Of course, relationships are so important, but it's not the only thing. A kid has to feel regulated and safe in the space, which is why tangentially about school violence, I get so fired up about, because like, if you're walking into a building scared, you're not going to learn. So they have to feel comfortable in the space. They have to feel comfortable with the people. They have to feel motivated. So that's how I built out that first section of basically everything you need before you even can begin learning. And then I started to me, it was like building blocks of how kids learn in school. And then also slowly increasing in age as went through the chapters and the anecdotes and talking about homework and testing. Because this book isn't about the audience is parents. It's not about like, hey, teachers, this is how to teach an autistic kid. I trust teachers to know how to do that. This is about preparing a kid to receive their education. And then now I have heard from lots of teachers that have had some early copies that they're like, this is going to be really helpful for teachers too, which I am thrilled by, but didn't intend, for it to be. My agent was like, you got to pick an audience. I'm like, I don't want to. Okay. I had to pick an audience. So yeah. And then that just kind of flowed into, okay, I feel like I'm done telling the story of how to learn in the school building. How do we learn outside the school building? And that was my favorite part to write, because I got to research interests and music and animals. And that chapter was my favorite to research on interests, because that is so regulating to us and to kids. And we're learning so much about ourselves when we research what works for these kids.
I love that. And you also reminded me of something that I didn't think about since years. When I was in preschool, speaking of like going into the building, feeling safe, knowing what to expect, I went to like a Hebrew school that did a preschool program, and my mom would drop me off. I'd walk in, and for the first like 30 minutes, she tells me this all the time, that I would just throw a fit. Like I'd throw my shoes in a corner, I'd throw my socks off and everything, while everybody else is doing like circle time. And then it took like a couple of weeks for the teacher to be like, that's just what Jake needs. Totally fine. 30-minute window, and then I'd come back and everything's good for the rest of the day.
There you go. I don't know what it was, but something was dysregulating. Yeah.
Yeah, no idea.
It could have been the separation. It could have been something in the space. It could have been just the transition of going from home to classroom. And then eventually you probably adapted. Yeah. But imagine that you were hitting other kids, or you were throwing things, like there are limits to this that we have to make changes to get kids in safer environments. Yeah.
Luckily, I wasn't hitting other kids or throwing things at them. I was very, very intentional about making sure it was just me.
Oh, that's interesting that you remember that. Like, I am pissed, but I'm only going to be pissed over here away from people.
Yeah, no idea why.
I'm not going to make my feelings your problem.
Yeah.
And Emily, I don't know how much you've dealt with this in your career, but I would guess you probably have. Like, the tips and tricks and strategies I use for kids in school, like I've got those but like when kids are in religious education programs, I'm like, okay, so you're a volunteer, you don't have teaching background, you don't, like, the kid doesn't stop needing a 504 or an ADHD protocol or an autism protocol because they're in CCD. Right. So it's like, now I'm trying to convince like somebody's grandma who's like, but he should want to be here because this is the house of the Lord. Can you tell I grew up Catholic? It's like, yes, but to your point, like, a relationship isn't everything. A relationship with God or the teacher is not enough. Like, the kid needs to be regulated and feel safe and have pathways to regulation. I recently wrote an IEP for a kid, and it was like, the one thing you cannot take away from this kid is this kid's access to his calm down space. Because on the day you take it away, he's got to quote unquote earn it, is the day he's going to need it and won't be able to get it. The school was like, well, it's not that simple. I was like, would you tell a kid who needs a wheelchair? Well, you didn't earn your wheelchair today, Timmy. So, you're on your own. Like, I was like, this is what this kid needs to stay in this room.
Yeah.
And like, how dare you not give it to him?
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. And that's the shift we're hopefully making. There are critics that say, oh, we're going too soft, and we're, making everyone have access to all their feelings and there are no consequences. No, there are boundaries to aggression. There are boundaries to kids being mean to each other, but that's different. And that's not something a book can solve. That's something that you're working all hands on deck with a team at school and probably professionals like us to problem solve those things. But in general, yes, these are often invisible disabilities, especially for younger children who don't have the language to ask for what they need. One of the reasons I love this work is that it's detective work. It's challenging, and you have to look for patterns, and you have to look for, when things work. One of my most favorite things is to look for what's working. And that always like throws people off. And I'm like, let's do more of that. Like, maybe there's one teacher or one subject or one time of day or one task that they're independent with. So how can we expand that and not just sit here and try to problem solve what's not working?
And one of the best things about your book is that consistent drumbeat of look for strengths, find out what's working, right? Like, it is much easier to lose than win. It's much easier to fail than succeed. So it's like when we get stuck on all the things this kid doesn't do well, I'll be like, okay, which is the easiest class for this kid? And like they're like, well, it's art or it's gym or it's science lab. Cool, let's start there. What's working about that?
Yeah.
Because if we can copy that or find the themes and just expand that outward, our mindset has become this like, well, it doesn't matter that you're succeeding here because you need to be doing these things in these places. It's an and, not but, right? Like I want you to do well in some things and understand why you're not doing well in other things.
Yeah.
I think that's also a little hard with teachers. And I want to connect it to something you were saying earlier, Matt, where a lot of people in the education field now, at least, aren't educators, like talking about the Catholic schools. And then there's also schools just in generally across the country. Like we don't need certified teachers anymore. You went to school for biology, come teach biology. Like you've never taught a class, had any experience with this, totally fine. And like we're missing out on such a huge element of like educational psychology that's not there for these teachers. And there's even more of a disconnect where, like, Emily, I want to highlight that other teacher's statement that this is a book for teachers as well, even if you didn't intend it, because there's so many teachers out there who don't have that understanding that if they pick up your book, they read through it, it's accessible. It's not like it's easy to read, quote unquote, but it's something that everybody can dive into and get something from and understand and take it to their teaching, even if they've never taken an ed psych class.
Yeah, I had one teacher say, this helps me understand the parent's perspective. And I was like, wow, I didn't even mean to do that, but that is like amazing.
Yeah.
Like fireworks in my brain.
Oh, God. All right. So speaking of fireworks, there's a moment that I'm putting this out in the universe because there's a moment that's going to happen to you that like I want for you because I know it was like a big thing for me. Whether you're walking through an airport or a Starbucks or whatever, you can see somebody reading your book in the wild. It's like,
oh my gosh,
like it is just, it's wild. And like I sprinted across Newark Airport. I was like, hi. And the person was like, who are you, strange man?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. The thing so far that's gotten to my heartstrings is I had a couple parents who have requested that the public library order it. And I was like, oh, that just like makes me tear up because for this information to be so accessible, it is all I want. I mean, that's why I do it, right? And I do it to tell my story so these parents and kids don't feel alone, but I also do it to educate. There's so much that is so hard to put all together that I just hope, I think that's anyone's hope for writing a book, that you can put like 20 years of experience into one project and be like, here, just read this. This is the book I've wanted to be able to give parents in sessions. This is the book, of course, I wanted to have for myself 15 years ago. So yeah, that's what it's all about. I can't wait till that happens. I hope it happens.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait for you. Now I know you need to wrap up because life doesn't start, even though that you're a famous published author now.
Gosh.
So Jake, are we ready to try our brand new wrap-up questions?
I think we are.
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot. Oof.
We are definitely putting you on the spot.
You've done this before, Emily.
I have to pull them up too before I forget and then end up asking the last one.
I will buy you time and I'll ask Emily my question. So Emily.
Okay.
My new wrap-up question is, if you could live anybody else's life for one day, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's really hard.
We stepped up the questions a little bit.
I think I would want to live Taylor Swift's life for one day, but only one day.
Only one day. Yeah.
Only one day. Because I want to wear all of her clothes and I want to sing all of her songs and be able to play the piano like she can, but only one day because I don't want that much attention.
No, yeah, it's too much. But yeah, one day would be pretty cool. I feel like we're going to get a lot of T-Swifts and I'm here for that because honestly, goals.
Yeah.
All right, Jake.
I have to remember how to ask this one now. So what's a story that ended up changing your life and why? Whether it's like a movie, a book, TV show, something you've heard in passing, a story from a friend, anything at all?
I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind was during COVID, I read the entire Outlander series. And if you know these books, they're 1,000 pages each. And at the time,
Yes.
there were 8 of them. So because I live in North Carolina and because, have y'all read these books or watched the shows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Saw the show. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the books are, of course, as books are, way more in depth than the show. But I have Scottish ancestry. My family's been in North Carolina for like 250 years. So I felt really connected to the story, but I love the North Carolina mountains. I've always felt like spiritually connected to the North Carolina mountains. And aside from the setting and the history, though, it just was like an escape world for me during that time in my life that was somewhat therapeutic. I think everyone maybe has a this got me through COVID story. And for me, that was it. Yeah.
Outlander got you through COVID.
Yes.
There's so many pages.
And I'm a slow reader, actually. And I am someone who, I don't know, I got hooked. I was deep. I was down the rabbit hole. I could not put them down. It was amazing.
How accurate in comparison are the books to the TV show?
The TV show just cuts a lot of things out. So there are whole storylines that are cut out, but most of it is fairly accurate to the books. There are some details that are changed because the show has ended and there's actually another book that's coming out. Book 10 will come out maybe next year, but
so many.
So in the books, we don't know how it ends yet. And the show has ended. Yeah.
The books have stayed pristine in my brain. I did not watch the show. All right. So this will wrap up our first ever repeat episode, which I'm so excited for. I'm so excited with you. And honestly, just to reiterate, we're so proud of you. We're so happy for you. You are adding something to the universe, which is itself a feat. But the fact that you're adding something so positive and powerful and helpful, this is a legacy move.
Thank you.
It's easy to say when it's true, right? I know that we're really proud of you. Listeners, you're probably going to buy the book anyway, because why would you listen to a neurodiversity podcast if you weren't buying everything that existed about these kiddos? But if you weren't, add it to your list, holidays, anniversaries, Flag Day, whatever excuse you need. Thank you for coming on and telling us about it. I know we're that much more excited, and we were already pretty excited because Joik and I are 2 human golden retrievers. So,
well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about it. This is the first time I've talked about the writing process, which I love nerding out on because I also majored in English. So I loved just experiencing the process of that.
I figured everybody else is asking you about content. We're going to do therapy. We're going to talk about process.
Yeah.
Episode 3 can be a real deep dive into the process.
Yeah. I love it.
How does this make you feel? Yeah. So listeners, thank you for indulging us in this episode. Thank you for learning with us and learning from us. And as always, for trusting us with your time. It means the world to us. Jake, you want to send us out?
Absolutely. Like Dr. Matt was saying, thank you everybody for listening, for tuning in. Emily, it was incredible to see you again, to talk with you. And genuinely, this book is going to be huge.
Oh, thank you.
I've already recommended it to a handful of other teachers, a handful of other parents that I know who could definitely benefit from reading it. So thank you for them as well.
Oh, well, thank you so much for the confidence.
That's what we're here for. Take care.
Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodiversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.